Welcome back to the homestead. Today we're going to be processing some chicken thighs for freeze drying. So these were on sale really cheap at our local grocery store. They are boneless, skinless chicken thighs. They were $1.19 a pound. So we're going to get them all in these trays. We're going to bake them in the oven and then we'll get them out, tear them apart, and put them into the freeze dryer so that they will be ready to eat pre-freeze dried chicken. So we have a bag and a half left. We did the other bag and a half last night. So come along with us and we'll show you the process. At this point, we're going to leave the bits of skin and fat that are left on them. And that's because that will add a lot of flavor during the cooking process. Once we take these out of the oven and we let them cool, we will need to take most of that off because fat doesn't freeze dry. So we'll need to remove as much of it as possible so that it can freeze dry properly. So this is 5.7 pounds. This one was 5.8. We are going to season these because we are making these so they are ready to just rehydrate and eat straight out of the package. Okay, so those are nicely spread out in our pan. I'm gonna go wash my hands and we'll be back for seasoning. Sprite really likes to help in the kitchen. So as you can see, she is nice and underfoot here, helping us out, hoping for some chicken to fall on the floor. We will let her taste test some of the cooked stuff later. On the chicken, we're going to season it with garlic powder, salt, oregano, and black pepper. I like this mix of seasoning because it is a very basic, easy to pair with seasoning if you wanted to make this into teriyaki chicken later or just put it over rice. It's good with most things. So we'll go ahead and season this pretty heavily because this is going into long-term storage. It can potentially be assumed that we may not have as many herbs and spices around at that point as we would like to, and so this may be the interesting part of our dinner. All right, now we'll stick this in a 375-degree oven for about an hour and 15 minutes. And that is a pretty long cooking time, but we're okay with this drying out some because when we freeze dry it, it's going to pull all the moisture out of it anyway, so having it a little less moist will just speed up the freeze drying process. When you reconstitute it, it'll come right back. All right, off to the rest of the projects of the day. We're back with our cooked chicken. I already did the first 2 pans. We've got 1 pan left, and this is where I'm putting any fatty bits. You can see there haven't been too many, and then the rest of it we're just gonna put onto these trays. We do have more in the freezer, so if this doesn't fully fill these trays, we will use the stuff that we have already cooked and frozen to finish rounding out these trays. Stuff like this is a blob of fat, it won't freeze dry. So we want to make sure we're not putting it in there because we don't want it contaminating the rest of our freeze-dried food. But we will save all that, and next time we make dog treats, we can go ahead and use that in making our dog treats. We'll finish this up and then we'll get it in the freezer, and we'll bring you guys back when we're ready to put it into the harvest rate. Dog!
What?
Come on! Chicken! We have our chicken that is pre-cooked on trays. So this is all thigh meat. We're going to go ahead and put that into the freeze dryer. It should be done in a standard freeze dry cycle. Chicken seems to dehydrate very quickly. We did pre-freeze this, so the chicken and the freeze dryer are both cold. This is about 6 pounds of raw chicken, maybe 6.5. I'm not sure what the cooked weight is, but meat you don't have to know is exactly how much water you're putting back in it to rehydrate, because it really only reabsorbs what it needs. Don't forget to close your drain valve. All right, so now this is going to do its thing, and we'll bring you back in about 24 hours when our chicken is finished. Our freeze drying time is complete, so we're going to open up the freeze dryer and double check that the chicken is all the way dry and ready to be packaged, and then we'll get it stored. This looks to be one of the biggest pieces, so we'll break it open. As you can see, it is extremely dry and brittle, so there's no coldness to this at all, so no moisture. So this is ready to go into long-term storage. And we're going to allow the machine to defrost because we do have another load that we want to start directly after this one. So it'll be ready in about 2 hours to do another load. We'll take this inside and get it packaged. We will be filling our harvest rate 7 mil Mylar bags. This will allow us to store this chicken for up to 25 to 30 years. And that way we can use it in recipes whenever in that time frame we would like to use it. It's very convenient if you're going to be out backpacking, hiking, even out on the ATV. If you just want a quick and easy meal, you can take this with you and you can rehydrate it very easily. So these are oxygen absorbers. We use these to make sure that the freeze-dried goods stay fresh. But it's very important that you don't expose these to oxygen any longer than necessary. So what we do is we'll cut this seal off, we'll put an oxygen absorber into each of the pouches, and then we'll seal it right back up in the VacMaster immediately. I lost my scissors.
You could also put these in a canning jar. A lot of people do that. We just happen to have the VacMaster sitting right there, so that's what we do.
And you could probably just use one of the oxygen absorbers in this, or in the bags of chicken, but it's cheap insurance to go ahead and use too. So you can see that is nice and vacuum packed, just as it originally came, and that pink dot is still pink, which is great. That usually indicates that it's been opened if it turns blue, and so the less you can have it open, the more likely that is to stay pink. And as long as that's pink, these are still good. So we like to do it that way because it exposes them to very little oxygen. So we do have this turned up to 7, which allows it a longer sealing time. You need that long sealing time for the Mylar. Make sure that this is well positioned and flat. And then just hold it down until you hear it shut off or the light shuts off. And you can see that that provides a really excellent seal. And once we're done with this, we'll make sure that we write on the bag the date that these were processed and what's in them. One of the disadvantages to Mylar is that if you seal it and you forget what's in it, you can't see. You have to actually open it in order to know what you put into it. And as we stated with the oxygen absorbers in the packet themselves, the ones in here you want exposed to air as little time as possible. So do make sure that your product is all the way ready to seal up before you ever open up the oxygen absorbers. That will allow you to expose them to air for as little time as possible, and you'll get the best finished product out of your food. This bag we're preparing for a friend, and so we're doing it in a slightly shorter term seal, but this should still last several years if they chose not to eat it in the short term. But we're going to go ahead and vacuum it in the VacMaster. The VacMaster is really easy to use. You can go here and you can adjust your vacuum time. In this case, we're going to put it down fairly far because we don't want to crush the chicken. So 6 seconds is the least vacuum you can put on it. We're going to leave the sealing at 0.9 seconds and the cool down at 2 seconds. That's good settings for the type of bag that we're using. You have to go back till it does that, and then now it's ready to go ahead and seal. You just push down the lid and hold it for a second. After that, it will hold itself down because of the vacuum. When it's done, it releases the vacuum and the lid pops up automatically. And just like that, you have vacuum sealed a bag with chicken in it. We hope that you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, please leave them down below and we'll be sure to answer them. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.